All right. Aloha kako. Welcome, everyone. Trying a little something different here this evening. Thank you for your patience. All right. Welcome and good evening. My name is James Eustace. Welcome to our Waimea Community Association monthly town meeting for the month of April. And thank you for those joining us online tonight for our regular monthly Community Association meeting. Tonight, we are grateful to be joined by our elected leaders and community leaders representing the Waimea area and our county. I do encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on our social accounts. You may also find relevant information and resources up on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. This evening, as I said, we have switched things up a little bit by streaming over to our YouTube page in the hope of connecting with other community members in a kind of a different fashion. You can still access this link over on our Facebook page. At this point, I would like to recognize the Waimea Community Association board members, our Vice President, Mary Beth Lachek, our Treasurer, Jeremie Madrid, our Secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith, and our directors, Michael Donnelly, Riley Smith, Lonnie Olson-Chong, David Greenwell, and Patty Cook. And on behalf of the WCA board, we are grateful for the support shown by you, the community, to hold virtual town meetings. Thank you all for your interest in joining us for our past meetings and for viewing and sharing the recordings. You're always welcome to revisit and rewatch these videos up on our Facebook page or up on our YouTube channel. And the Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. And if you'd like to support the work that we have done and help continue our effort in connecting with our community, you're more than welcome to donate and join as a member. You may find this information up on our website at waimeatown.org to either download a membership form to mail or use the virtual platform there to donate and join as a member. Your contributions and membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting, and of course, support the work that the WCA has done over the past 60 years. Mahalo nui. So for this evening, we'll begin with a community health and safety update, including our South Kohala police officers, and an update from our Kaiser Permanente Waimea Clinic. And then following this, we will spotlight our nonprofit of the month, spend a little time with our two Waimea council members, and share a number of community announcements. We will then hear about the ongoing work in and around our community regarding unexploded ordnance. And for our main focus tonight, we'll spend some time with Mayor Roth and the department heads of both Parks and Recreation and the Planning Department. This evening, we are grateful to present you with a full and informative agenda, and we have allocated time to share your questions with our presenters tonight. We do appreciate the community members sending in questions ahead of time, but we will always try and capture and do our best to capture the live questions that are presented. So please use the live chat to pose your questions, and we'll do our best to share them with our guests. And of course, thank you to my fellow board members, Nancy Carr-Smith and Mary Beth Lachek, for joining me this evening and presenting these questions to our guests. So at this time, I would like to welcome back Captain Evangelista and our community policing officers, Justin Cabanting and Ansel Robinson, to share with us a few updates. Mahalo, Captain and officers, welcome.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for having us. We'll go ahead and start with Justin with the announcements and the crime report trends.
All right, thanks, Cap. Good evening, everyone. So before I start, I just want to make some announcements real quick. Our next Coffee with a Cop is actually going to be at Waimea Coffee Company this time. It's going to be on Wednesday, April 27th from 9 to 11. We're also going to be at Parker Ranch Center on the 29th. That's going to be with the prosecuting office for National Crime Victims Week. So we'll be out there in front of Parker Ranch Center with them, supporting them. And lastly, our newsletter just went out today. I'm not sure if everybody got it. If you're interested, please leave your email in the chat and I'll get it to you. But I'll go ahead and start off with the crime report for the month of March. We had 4 assault investigations. We had 3 burglaries, 6 criminal property damage investigations. We had 0 robberies. We had 8 theft investigations, 5 UCPV investigations, and 2 UEMB investigations. We also had 24 drug investigations also for the month of March. We also had 7 major incidents in March, And I just want to say that our patrol officers are out there hitting the streets, and I just wanted to, they are running traffic and trying to do best investigations they can. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. But I'm going to hand it over to Officer Ansel Robinson for the traffic report.
Hello, thanks, Justin. Okay, so for traffic, we'll cover citations first. So for the month of March, our citations broke down with, let's see here, 185 speeding, 151 moving, 73 seatbelts, 339 regulatory, 115 unsafe, 109 device, and 8 DUIs. And we also had 7 child restraint citations issued. Then for traffic casualties, we had 7, which is 3 less than last year as far as major traffic accidents. Saw a few trends, specifically that most were occurring before dark time hours. And actually most of the accidents or traffic casualties were occurring on Wednesdays, surprisingly. Yeah, that's all I got. I'll pass it back over to Captain.
Thanks, you guys. I'll just close with the information that April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And something that I wanted to highlight on that topic was the fact that we have people in our community that are designated by law as mandated reporters. Some of those professions or occupations are examples are physicians, our clergy in some situations, school officials and school employees. In our newsletter, I posted a few links to some resources federally, locally, and the one I wanted to highlight was the guide for mandated reporters put out by our Child Welfare Services state agency. So we work closely with them to investigate reports of child abuse. And that's all in an effort to protect our most vulnerable segment of our population. So yeah, April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Please check out the resources that we posted in our newsletter. And thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, officers. Great to have you on the call as always. I really appreciate all that you do in our community. So mahalo nui to you and your fellow colleagues. Thank you. For our community health update this evening and to share some news, we are grateful to be joined by Kaiser Permanente, Doctor of Family Medicine, Dr. Melissa Gosland. Mahalo, Dr. Gosland. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening.
Thanks, you guys. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Loud and clear. Thank you so much. All good.
Right on. Well, thanks so much for having me. It's nice to join you guys at last. I hope we can do this in person sometime. I was asked just to kind of share what's happening with Waimea Clinic. I know there's been a lot of questions about where we went and if we're back. So going to try to address that in a few minutes here. As James said, my name is Melissa Gosland. I'm a family doctor who's been here in Waimea since 2011. And Kaiser Permanente Hawaii has been here serving the community since 1995. Many of you know Lois Gregg, Jeff Tolan. They both unfortunately have retired, but we are back with some new staff members I'll introduce you to as well. Back in March of 2020, when COVID arrived on our shores, we were asked to close the clinic for 2 weeks. Remember the 2-week thing? We all thought we were just going to go home for 2 weeks. And we did that mostly to centralize our personal protective equipment at our hub clinic in Kona and Hilo and try to roll out as rapidly as we could virtual care. Both unfortunately have retired, but we are back. Oh, there's a little bit of echo. Back. Hang on, I'm going to try to, I'm hearing some echo. Anyhow, 9 months later, we finally got ourselves reopened partially with David Knowles doing same-day care 3 days a week. And in the fall of 2021, reopened fully 5 days a week. So for those of you who lobbied hard to get us back open, I especially want to thank you. I think it made a big difference. So we provide family medicine and urgent care services here in Waimea 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with myself, David Knowles, our PA, and our newest physician, Nina Baker. We also have nursing services, health education, dietitian services. We offer blood pressure checks, COVID testing, all types of vaccinations. And just as an aside, we have COVID vaccines available as well as boosters to anybody in the community. You don't have to be a Kaiser member. In regards to the pandemic, we really had to be flexible and adaptable along the way. This last couple of years, we had to roll out virtual care really rapidly, try to figure out a way to provide safe in-person care for patients with COVID symptoms, and also continue to see our other patients with their medical needs. We had to conserve our personal protective equipment, work with public health agencies, reporting cases, provide testing, roll out vaccinations, care for infected people. So it was a big ask. And I'm really thankful I had Kaiser behind me to help me figure this out. I don't think I could have done it as a solo practitioner. The Delta wave in August was really tough. We lost a lot of beloved patients and community members, as you guys know. The most recent Omicron surge, as you can see, was overwhelming in terms of numbers. But its severity was less, I think, because so many more of our folks were vaccinated by then. We've had really good support from our own infectious diseases team over on Oahu. They've been keeping us updated originally with weekly meetings for the whole medical community. And now we meet, I think, every 3 weeks for an hour just to hear what the latest updates are. And then we also, of course, have had FEMA nurses on site, which have been wonderful, bringing in folks to help get the vaccine rates up. In terms of vaccination, we're doing pretty well as a state, but when you look at our county in particular, we're lagging a little bit. 68% of our population has had their primary series, which is 2 doses of a Moderna or a Pfizer or a single J&J. We're still encouraging everyone who's eligible to complete their primary series and get at least 1 booster. So we only have about 36% of our population who has been boosted to date. If you or someone you know do get sick and you're at risk for serious illness, there are therapies available on the island that are best given before you get too ill. At this point, they are fairly available for people in all tiers, as it's called. There's some of the names are across the top of this slide: Paxlovid, Bebtelovimab, and Evusheld. These are provided through the government to our major medical centers, so North Hawaii Hospital, Kona Community Hospital, and Hilo Medical Center. And it changes daily kind of who has what. So if you are sick or if you feel like you may qualify for Evusheld, which is given to people at high risk for disease, preemptively, just call your doctor and we can figure out how to get that for you. Beyond pandemic issues, we are, like I said, we're reopened 5 days a week. We also are now bringing up our nurse practitioner from Kona every Tuesday. She's doing annual Medicare wellness visits for our Medicare population, which is just kind of a cool added benefit in addition to your routine physical for folks over 65. We've got nephrology consultations happening here now on a case-by-case basis, and we're hoping to expand our services even more in the year ahead. There's definitely some things in the pipeline. So I hope that answers some questions. Thanks so much for all your support, and I'm here to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Dr. Gosland. Nancy and Mary Beth, did you have a couple of questions you wanted to ask of the doctor?
Yeah, Dr. Melissa, I was just wondering, what about the latest variant? Are we seeing that at all in the Waimea area?
I don't think we've seen it yet here. Yesterday on Oahu, they officially changed from sotrovimab to bebtelovimab because that has better efficacy against the BA2 variant, which they're starting to see on Oahu now. And yesterday morning, we were told that we don't have that on island yet. By yesterday afternoon, we were told that we're changing over on our island as well. So I think we're just expecting that within a few days, it's going to be here too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for covering everything. Mary Beth, did you have anything?
I was just going to say, as a quick follow-up to Nancy's question, is there anything that the community needs to be aware of with this variant that might be different than we've seen with previous ones?
Not that I know of. I think we're still kind of waiting to see how it rolls out, but it seems like it's going to be much like Omicron in terms of possibly a little bit less severe, especially in our vaccinated folks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Gosland. Great to have you on here. Good to see you.
Thanks.
And like you said, look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon too.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Mary Beth and Nancy, for those questions. And of course, during this transition time, we must still remain thoughtful and diligent for our businesses as well, of course, with their practices that they're following. This COVID-19 really continues to be our kuleana. So please do stay home if you're feeling under the weather, wear masks where and when appropriate, get tested if you suspect exposure, and please do consider getting vaccinated if you haven't had the chance. And of course, I would encourage you to visit hawaiicovid19.com, which is the state COVID-19 portal, or the county portal at hawaiicounty.gov/coronavirus for more information. And of course, mahalo, Dr. Gosland, to you and your colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
And for the month of April, the Waimea Community Association will be spotlighting Kōkua Harvest as our nonprofit of the month. And tonight, we're glad to be joined by a Kōkua Harvest Project Coordinator, Lisa DeSantis, to share about the organization's efforts to provide fresh produce in our food distribution efforts, as well as in our schools. Welcome, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is like my 4th presentation this week, and I'm still so nervous. So I just want you guys to like us as much as I like us. I'm going to quickly share my presentation and just go through it. You can see it okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Like James said, I've been invited to talk about Kōkua Harvest, the Food Baskets Gleaning or Food Rescue Program. Before I do, I wanted to quickly mention what gleaning is. So the painting you're looking at is called The Gleaners, and it was painted in 1857, depicting, of course, 3 gleaners collecting wheat after a harvest. So as you can gather from that photo, gleaning is the gathering of leftover grain or other produce after a harvest. It's often used interchangeably with food rescue, which is the practice of collecting edible food that would otherwise go to waste from places such as restaurants and grocery stores, and distributing it to local community emergency food programs. Gleaning goes back at least 2,000 years and is practiced all over the world. We've come quite a long way since this painting was completed, as gleaning and food rescue are no longer limited to the slim pickings of post-harvest collection. So that brings me to Kōkua Harvest and what we do. So Kōkua Harvest was started by the Food Basket, the County of Hawai'i, and myself in 2019, hoping that through the act of working together to collect and share fresh produce, we would connect and nourish our island, build stronger community relationships, and foster a deeper appreciation for the food and resources our Aina provides for us. We do that by being invited onto farms and private residences to harvest their extra produce, and we distribute it through the Food Baskets programs, as well as distribution partners like Waimea Middle School, like you mentioned, James. And we get that fresh local produce to those who need it. I'm going to say local a lot in this presentation. We thought it was a good idea because, as we know, we import 80 to 90% of all the food that we eat here. By harvesting what's already here and making it available to residents, we increase our local food security, contribute to local food sovereignty, while participating in our local food system in a culturally relevant and familiar way. The photos you're looking at are some of our really amazing volunteers harvesting items like ulu, starfruit, lychee, calamansi, avocados, and mamaki. Gleaning and food rescue for us come with a couple of specific points of concern. The first one is finding the balance between harvests and volunteers. If I have harvests but no volunteers, then we're very limited by how much we can do. And if I have volunteers but no harvests, of course, then no harvesting can be done by those volunteers. The second one is making sure that I'm not overburdening anybody with what we're collecting. So like I had mentioned, all of our distributions, all of the produce that we harvest is distributed by partners and by different programs of the food basket, which means that when we harvest something and we feel good about ourselves, we are then giving 900 pounds of citrus to somebody else, and then they have to deal with it. So I'm really sensitive to that. And we try to make sure that the produce that we're harvesting is distributed in the community that it was harvested in, while also being sensitive to the fact that it's a lot of work to get that produce and get it out into the community. And the last point I'll mention is a little bit selfish, but we don't often get to see the produce we harvest get used or even taken home, which brings me to my next slide. Again, you're looking at a slide of our beautiful volunteers harvesting all over the island. There's some tangerines and banana harvesting happening. And then our future, we look forward to growing the program by increasing our harvest and volunteer capacities, hopefully eventually through paid harvest positions. And we hope to sustain those positions by creating a value-added products line. You can see on the left, I was testing a dried dehydrated starfruit item. And then on the right, we used to harvest mamaki, and Hui Malama would wash it, dehydrate it, bag it, and give it to their clients. So we're working on getting these products up and running. I strongly, not believe, because it's not a belief, it's a fact that this is a community effort. And without our crop donors, our volunteers, our distribution sites, nothing we do would be possible. So especially because this is recorded, I really want to do a quick and very public thank you to everybody who makes this program possible. If you have any questions about what we do, well, thank you to those people. I guess that wasn't really a thank you. I said I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to all of those people. If you are one of them, thank you so much. And if you're not one of them and you want to get involved, my information is right there. I'd be happy. I can talk about this all day, no matter how nervous I am, because I love this project so much. And I just really appreciate the invite to speak to you all today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Nancy and Mary Beth, did you have any questions for Lisa by chance?
Lisa, I was wondering, how was the star fruit? Did it dehydrate well?
Oh my gosh, it was like candy. It was so good.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. No, it sounds like a great program. Best of luck to you, and hopefully you'll get lots of support.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thanks, Nancy. And thank you, Lisa. It's great to have you on here. Mahalo nui, of course. And if you're really interested in learning about Kōkua Harvest and ways to support their efforts, please do visit and kokuaharvest.org, or you can email kokuaharvest@gmail.com. So please reach out to Lisa and her team there and support their efforts. Thanks again, Lisa. Great to have you on here with us. Absolutely. Thank you. Next up, I'm going to share a couple of other community announcements, and we do try and share these out on our other social media accounts. So you may have seen these on our Facebook page, but I just wanted to reiterate a couple of these points here and share them with the community in this fashion here. So first up, there is a summer school assistance program that has just launched. It just started recently for our summer school programs, looking for support, and the applications that need to be submitted before the June deadline, really to support our keiki for our summer programs. So information is there up on the screen if you'd like to learn more about that. Next up, this is an ongoing event as well. So that the previous one just started, and this one has just started too. This is happening here in the Waimea community at Isaac's Art Center. There's an art exhibit on Ben Norris and landscape watercolor art there, as well as some local artists that'll be joining that show coming up here. And then tomorrow evening, there is a family food truck Friday at Pukalani Stables. And this has kind of an Easter theme. So there's an Easter egg hunt at the early hours before it gets too dark and too late for the keiki. And then of course, there's some hula performances to go along with that as well. Wonderful. And then on Saturday, there is a cat adoption event happening actually behind Isaac's Art Center, right at the village campus of Hawaii Preparatory Academy. And you should look out for the signs there along the highway for this event. And this is something that's been, I think, received pretty well. A lot of people have attended in the past. So that's going on. And then next up, there's the Annunciation Food Pantry. This is a Easter distribution next week, Tuesday. The recipients are going to receive a nice Easter bundle, which includes meat, fresh produce, fresh eggs, and even some shelf-stable goods. And a big mahalo to all the volunteers and sponsors that are making this possible. Also on next Tuesday, if you're interested in having a conversation about the Waiaka Bridge project, I encourage you to email the South Dakota Traffic Safety Committee to join that meeting next week, Tuesday. The links are up on the WCA Facebook page. I think even over on the South Dakota Traffic Safety Facebook page too, to review the document and look at the options that are being proposed by the Department of Transportation for that intersection and that bridge there. So that's happening next week, Tuesday, if you'd like to attend. And then a little bit later this month, on let's see, the 23rd of this month, there is a Puoko boat ramp cleanup. So kind of an event there, a trail cleanup and a fun day, beach day, a number of events going on down there at the Puoko boat ramp. So these, as I said, these events are posted up on our Facebook page, but wanted to point them out. And as always, if you or an organization that you're affiliated with need help in spreading word about an event or something you have going on, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, I'll stop sharing. And I am going to move on here, and I'm going to welcome in our council members. So first up, we have both of them tonight. But first up, I'm going to welcome in Councilor Tim Richards to share with us a few updates and some things going on at the County Council. Welcome, Councilor.
Thank you, James. Aloha, everyone. Tim Richards, County Council, District 9. And I see, I believe Councilwoman Heather Kimball is be joining us here shortly as well. Updates of what we've been talking about this week. Wanted to touch on the gas tax. And you may have seen in the reporting, we've been discussing gas tax and specifically what we're going to do with the county portion of the gas tax. Right now, the county portion is 23 cents a gallon, and there's been a resolution put forth, and we manage our taxes and our taxes, real property and gas tax through resolution, not through ordinance. So don't get hung up on it. That's just how we do it. And the proposal is to reduce the gas tax in our county by 10 cents from 23 cents down to 13 cents. And there's been a lot of discussion about that going forward. The idea is to do a little bit of relief on the public coming forward. And so we had a lot of conversation about this. And I certainly understand where the desire to have some sort of relief coming forward is. But there's the other side of the conversation of this. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of funding coming through the federal government for infrastructure. With that funding, typically there is a match of the local jurisdiction, in this case, the county, where it's a 20% match. So we have to come up with 20%. And through the state, the feds will support 80% of the funding. One of the concerns that I have coming forth is if we reduce our gas tax, we may impact the ability for us to match some of the funding coming out of the state and federal government. And so, though I definitely agree with the conception, we have to look a little deeper. It's projected that this could reduce our collections for about $7 million, $7.5 million. And some of our projects, like for instance, the Greater Waikoloa Road from the Mamaloa Highway all the way down to Queen Ka'ahumanu. That's about a $50 million project. It is very high on the STIP list, the State Transportation Improvement Project. If we don't have the match of about $10 million, we won't get the other $40 million. And so though I understand cutting the tax will give us a little bit of reprieve up front, the long-term effect could be very detrimental to the community. And we're discussing this right now. No final decision has been made. There, in fact, will be a public hearing on this coming forth, and it's on the 19th of this month, April 19th. So I'll look for it. You can look at my social media page. I'm sure Councilwoman Kimball's page will have that on it as well. And this is a point of conversation. Like I said, I did not vote for this gas tax because at the time I didn't think that we needed to go as high as it was taken. That being said, right now I'm looking at the community's greater interest going forward. And if we look at this, 10 cents per gallon, that's $2 on 20 gallons. Myself, and I drive a lot, that it's going to save a substantial, for me, it'd save about $350 a year on that based upon my driving patterns. So it's not without benefit to the community as a whole. But I'm looking at the bigger benefit of actually having highway and roads that are safe and well maintained. So that's one of the big things we talked about this week. I know I am short on time, James. Do I have any more time left? Do you want me to move into something else?
Yeah, I got about a minute or so.
Okay, just real quick, I'll touch on the Kumaho project, which is the timeshare development in the Greater Waikoloa Resort node. That was approved this week, and it's for 900 timeshare units and 140 up to 200 workforce housing. It's a new way of looking at the development, meaning they didn't have to do workforce housing. They've already satisfied that. The developer chose to do that because they recognize the severe shortage we have. And when I say 140 up to 200, they couldn't pledge to 200 because it depends upon the property after they get into surveying, and it depends on whether or not they will qualify for what's called a 2-on-H project, but they are committed to that. And we will continue the conversations to get as many of that workforce housing in there. It's a new way of looking at development. I think it's actually going to set the stage going forward. So with that, I want to step away and give my fellow council members some time. I appreciate the invitation. James, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Aloha.
Thank you, Councilor Richards. And yes, we will pass it over to Councilor Kimball. Thank you, Councilor Kimball, for being with us here this evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you, James, and thank you, as always, Waimea Community Association, for the invitation to speak with you folks. I'll just start and also share that I concur with Councilmember Richards and the concerns about the reduction of the fuel tax and the impacts that might have on our ability to leverage those funds for the infrastructure package programs that are available to us now. And so I also voted negatively on the resolution, but we'll see going forward. Like you said, there's a community meeting, so we may have we'll have further discussions about it. Some other things that have happened recently is the council passed Bill 111, which was introduced by Councilmember Chung. It was a bill designed to take a portion of the tax on residential properties over $2 billion, second homes, and put that directly towards ending homelessness. And this is a program that has designated that funding for a 5-year effort to really focus on ending homelessness in our county. And so how those funds will be used, I had a conversation with our Office of Housing and Community Development Administrator today, looking at a variety of service programs relating to health, mental health, and then also, just building units to get people housed. Very excited that we as a council could come together and support this initiative. I also wanted to highlight a bill introduced by Councilmember Kirkowitz, which had to do with vicious dogs. And I know that there are folks in your community that have called my office and Councilmember Richards's office about this issue. This revision to the county code really gives some more strength to our vicious dog laws, making the penalties much stronger for particularly cases where there's serious injury or even death, and also addressing the issues of repeat offenders and making sure that people really are responsible for preventing aggressive attacks by dogs. So we had a lot of really heartfelt testimony in support of this bill, and I was grateful to see all of our colleagues get together and really support this important amendment to our code. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks here. We are thick in budget season, so we'll be reviewing with all of the different departments in the county their proposed budget for the coming fiscal year, and I'm sure that members of our administration will be talking about more of their visions for how the next year will look as far as budget. But as I have said before on this forum, as council members, this process of reviewing our budget is probably our most important job. It is actually also one of the more difficult aspects of our job. And we're always looking for feedback and input from the community on how we can best spend the tax dollars that you contribute to making sure that our county effectively and provides the services that the community needs. I'll just conclude by talking a little bit about the ongoing long-term process for destination management at Waipio Valley. And I want to be very clear that this process is outside of the current emergency closure situation. It was a process that we actually began last year, and it just happened that it got kicked off in March at about the same time as the emergency closure. And so what is happening right now is there's a steering committee that is looking at a variety of options for sustainable long-term destination management of YPO. And as part of that, they are considering impacts on other areas, like the other side of the valley. Councilmember Richards participates as a member of our steering committee. So we are looking at the impacts on Pololu as well. In May, we will have our first community information exchange. Everybody is welcome to participate, and I will be putting information about the dates, location, and time out on social media and in my weekly newsletter. So if that's something, a process that you're interested in contributing, we encourage you to come to this information exchange and help us develop a community-based program to provide long-term destination management for Waipio Valley. Again, thank you for the invitation to come tonight, and nice to see all of you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Kimball. Great to have both of you and Councilor Richards on here to really update the community about things and the work that you're progressing on. So thank you so much to the both of you. All right, so you may have seen a number of flags out in some fields or flags in your neighbor's yard. So with the ongoing surveying and remediation efforts across the former Waikoloa maneuver area, there has been some recent buzz and questions about this work. And this evening, we're grateful to be joined by the Waikoloa maneuver area, formerly used defense site program manager, Lauren Zulik. And I think we also have on here potentially Environmental Branch Chief David Griffin. They both represent the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and really to provide us some updates. Lauren, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me, allowing me to be on your program and in your meeting, another forum for us to present the work that we're doing. I do want to start off with talking a bit about just the work that's happening around Waimea and in the community here. Our project area is much larger than that, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. I appreciate that you gave me a number of questions in advance. I'll try and address those as well as we get through this in the time allowed. And so just kind of an overview of the area that we're working in right now that is kind of most directly affecting this community association. And that is projects 2 and 4, areas BOQJ. And this map here depicts those 2 project areas. And you can see the acreage on that, the area. I'm hoping you can see my cursor up here in Waimea town. And large acreages over here. Project 02, about 3,500 acres. Project 04, about another 1,000 acres. So about 4,500 acres that we're working in right now. And I know a lot of you have been, we've been requesting rights of entry to get into this. And I know there's a lot of fatigue in the community from this process. It's been ongoing for quite some time. I do appreciate you bearing with us and working with us as we continue to try and refresh our efforts and our approach. And so thank you for considering our requests to come on your property and do the work that we're doing here. I'm going to move on to the next slide. And so the work that we're doing, here's the same kind of project area being depicted. Now this shows where we have rights of entry, and this shows the type of work that we're doing there. We're doing three kinds of work in this remedial design phase. We're doing transects, we're doing grid sampling, and we're doing 100% coverage. So there's three different levels of investigation that we're kind of doing out here. And our goal in this remedial design is to try and evaluate what's written as a selected remedy for these two projects in our decision documents and confirm that the data is accurate and if there's any changes that might need to be done in the remedy for cleanup. When you see us, you might see something like this if you do give us permission or maybe on your neighbor's property. We have three different types of equipment that I'll kind of show you right here, but this is kind of what you might expect if you grant us permission and you live in a residential neighborhood. This is the kind of equipment we would be pushing or pulling or carrying across your yard in order to collect data about what's under the ground, of course. And what the intent here with this type of equipment is to reduce the number of digs. If we're just using handheld equipment, we just get a ping and we know there's metal in the ground. We have to investigate. Investigations and going intrusive means we have to have evacuations. And that is problematic for people and a little bit inconvenient. With this type of equipment, we go out, we collect the data, we leave the property, we analyze the data, and we only dig on items that match in our library of items that are suspected to be munitions. Here's another type of equipment, some handheld stuff. This is the Ultratem screener. And then a third type, we've got a metal mapper, and then down below also a manned portable vector on the lower right-hand side. Again, collecting data and then going back to those areas of interest and analyzing them further so that reducing the number of digs, reducing the impacts to the community by digging only on items believed to be munitions. So that's kind of where we're headed. And this is the kind of equipment that we're using nowadays. This is some of the results of where we're at right now and the status of the work that we've been doing. We've been out there for a bit of time, and we're coming up on a year being in the field, about 9 months so far. And we're at various stages of data collection, and that's what these colored pieces show. But you can see it's a very large area, and we've got a lot of data collection going on in a broad area. I mentioned that this complete area is about 4,500 acres that we're working in right now. Again, there's a lot of residential communities being impacted by this, some businesses. And so we're not in the vast pasture lands and open fields. With single landowners, we have a lot of different landowners that we're trying to coordinate with and get access to so that we can get good representation of what's here and make good decisions about if additional work is needed and in what areas. For this particular aspect of the project, this remedial design, this RD phase, we started in September of last year. We are going to start to be intrusive later this month. So this whole amount of time is just been us collecting data and trying to make interpretations and identify areas that need to be investigated further where we need to go intrusive. So it takes a while and it's a process. Appreciate your patience with that. But we're going to start going intrusive soon. We expect to complete the field work at the end of this calendar year and then be reporting on that about this time next year. Have a report done for what we have. Just on the status of that, so far we haven't found any MEC items. So in all those areas that we're working on, I showed on the previous slide, no surface MEC items, MEC munitions and explosives of concern. And that's a good thing. We are working in a lot of areas that have been previously cleared. And I'll get into that with some of the questions that you've asked. And again, we'll be starting our digging there shortly. These are the questions that I received in advance, and they're pretty pointed questions in some respects, and it's good, it's fine. I like that, and I want to be as upfront and honest and transparent with you as possible. Of course, that's what we're here for, and try and explain a complicated process as best I can, and where we're at it. So. I'll try and answer these questions as we're moving along, and I'll show maps to help explain it a little bit. Biggest one: why are we looking at some areas or rescanning some areas? The community knows, and that we've been doing this for several years. It's confusing as to why we're redoing some areas, and appreciate that question. I appreciate the fatigue. I understand it. I'm going to scroll down and just talk a little bit about the big picture here. And here's the much bigger picture. This is about 185,000 acres. For reference, here's Waimea, and here's our B, O, Q, and J project area that we're talking about right now. But the big picture, 185,000 acres, 22 different project areas that we're working in various phases of cleanup. So there's a lot going on in different areas. And this yellow area is area that had a non-time critical removal action carried out, about 29,000 acres, as I mentioned. And we are, what we're doing is that is done to address an immediate hazard and to reduce risk. It's not necessarily to complete a final remedy that's been identified through our CERCLA process. And so, those areas have had significant MEC removed, about 2,700 items. And the blue dots on here represent the concentrations of where those munitions were found. And it's spread out pretty broadly, but there are concentrations. And so the MEC content and risk in those areas has been reduced, but further cleanup may be necessary. And that's kind of what we're evaluating right now. We address the remaining risk through our 3 R's: education, recognize, retreat, and report. And we continue to evaluate the protectiveness of that NTICRA work, or rescanning, as it's kind of was called in the question, as we move forward in our process. Question number 2. I'm going to move along a little quicker here, I think. Yep. And so, question number 2. What is the general plan and for where you finished and where do you still plan to go? So we've kind of completed work in area N and R, and we are really continuing our work in the area where the people are and where there's the greatest threat to human health and safety. So we're working here around the towns, along the coast, and then Waikoloa Village is another entity that we've got to address for community interaction with munitions. And so that's kind of our focus, to try and say, okay, we know where the impact area is, bounded by Kauai High Road and Mamaloa Highway. So within here is our impact area. That's where we're going to find MEC. And that's where we want to make sure that we're reducing the risk for human interaction. Okay. Question number 3, I'm going to read to you. It's specific to Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and what is the situation with Department of Hawaiian Homelands by the transfer station? How are we assisting DHHL with obtaining funding so that they can qualify loans, homes can be built? Broke ground 12 years ago. A lot of people are a little bit frustrated with that. Okay, and so this is the Lalamila parcel. Just over here is our transfer station and electric, the waste transfer station and the electric substation. This is the area that has the infrastructure constructed. We are currently working in this area right now. These are the grid units that we've created out there. And we are doing cleanup in area and evaluating work from the NTICRA work that was already done there, the non-time critical work. And we're doing surface and subsurface removal so that they can move forward. Department of Hawaiian Homeland can move forward with their intended land use. And that's what we're doing out here. And then when we get done with that, they'll have a final report that they can use to request funding as needed. We don't deal with funding. We deal with cleaning up of contamination. That's all we deal with. I know that there's a lot of overlap and a lot of other agencies that have other policies, but we only deal with cleanup. Over here, with this infrastructure, there may be other concerns that are not UXO or munitions and explosives of concern related. I would definitely point you towards DHHL and or the Department of Health for additional information there, if you need more information on that. I mentioned that we're going back into area that was previously cleared. In doing so, we've cleared a large number of munitions items out of this entire tax map key, but there were 8 more items found. 7 of these were hand grenades, and 1 of these is a 60 millimeter mortar. So we are finding things, and that's not surprising. We know that there's going to be munitions left behind, even in the work that we do right now with the best technologies that we got. That's why we implement the 3 R's of 3 R's of explosive safety. Okay. And who holds current contracts in the community? What's the value of the contracts? How many employees are on the project? Okay. So the 2 contracts that are underway in this community area right now, we've got the BOQJ remedial design effort. That was an $11 million contract awarded to Hydrogeologic, HGL. There are 18 personnel on site. There are 6 individuals from the Big Island working in that capacity. Another contract that's going on right there, the Lalamilo piece that I just showed you, that is a $8.5 million contract that was awarded to Na'ali'i and ERRG as a joint venture. They have 12 personnel on site and 7 individuals from Hawaii. Okay. And then the next question is, word around town is that if you don't allow people on your property, the Corps of Engineers, is going to place a lien on their property. Is this true? That is definitely not true. We don't put liens on properties, period. We don't do that. Our final letter, when we're done asking for rights of entry, would indicate that we will maintain a record of the potentially contaminated condition of your property, and we will periodically assess the potential to secure access that would be required to perform any appropriate environmental response. So we kind of put you in queue. We've left your area, and every so often, that's like 5 years at a time, we might come back and ask again if we have the ability to access that property and conduct the cleanup that's required. Question number 6. What percentage of areas have you surveyed? Have you turned up UXO? And so that kind of goes back to this map over here, and it shows that 29,000 acres. 29,000 acres that have been cleaned up. We've done the remedy now in area N and R in addition to that, and we have cleaned up about 2,700 mech items in the process of doing that. So we have more work to do, but some of these areas are outliers that probably don't have the same mech contamination as our impact area. And so we're probably going to try and close those out as we prioritize our areas and try and help to do that. Final question, and I do apologize if I'm going over a little bit. How does the expansion of WMA and continuation of UXO surveying impact the development of long-range development plans for the district, et cetera? There's the question number 7. And so we research that we've done in the expanded area, and that's pretty much everything outside of this line here, this former boundary, out here and up here. There's been no release of contamination that we found, so there's no new projects. So we don't, there's no restrictions placed by the Corps of Engineers. We do not put any restrictions on development or what people do on their property. So with that, I think that I have gone over a little bit, but I just wanted to point out that We do have a Restoration Advisory Board meeting coming up in May, and it's on 18 May from 5 to 6:30. This is our biannual meeting, and we would encourage people to participate in that, and you can find out more. You can always reach out to me as well. I'm happy to answer questions about this. I'll pause there.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And for the RAB meeting, is that to be held in person, or are you still holding it in a virtual setting?
This one will continue to be virtual.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's see. Okay, thank you so much, Lauren. Really appreciate you being on here with us this evening and answering a number of those tough questions and really addressing the community here about that. So really grateful to have you on here. A lot of information on there, and do encourage people to really follow that process. And if they'd like to learn more, to attend those RAB meetings and learn about the work that's at Lauren and his colleague and the contractors, of course, are carrying out. So thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us here this evening. Mahalo to you. All right. We're going to move on to our final portion of tonight's meeting. And I do appreciate the patience of our last guests here, but we're grateful to be joined by Mayor Mitch Roth, our Planning Director, Zendo Kern, and our Parks and Recreation Director, Maurice Messina, to really connect with the Waimea community. And as we begin to refocus our efforts and tackle some of the issues that we put on hold these past 2 years, we thought it prudent to connect with our county leadership and learn about the issues going on across the county and the work that's being done here in our districts and around the island. So first of all, mahalo, Mayor Roth, for taking the time to join us this evening and really connect with our community members. And I'll pass it on over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, James, and aloha, everybody. In addition to Maurice and Zendo, our police officers, our council members, we also have Cyrus Jonathan, who is an executive assistant covering a lot of our media stuff. So you may see him chatting in every few seconds here, or occasionally. Not sure how many of you actually heard the State of the County address that we did the other day. If not, it is on Naleo TV, YouTube, and other places. I think Cyrus will probably be putting a link up there in a few moments. Coming in, we knew that we had a lot of issues. I tell people that it's like buying a house, coming in and seeing first time, sight unseen, you come in and the foundation has a crack in it, not to mention a crack out in the driveway. The roof leaks, the water is hot and cold, toilet backs up, there's a cesspool that needs replacing. No gas issues, that's Honolulu. But some other things, and neighbors are great though. That's kind of what we see. So there's a lot of challenges that we have to look forward to. I'm glad that both of our council members brought up the gas tax. We have huge infrastructure costs. So while our budget may be around 600 million, we need billions with a B of dollars to fix all the things that are going on. And so with the Build Back Better grants and the infrastructure grants, we're hoping to get some of those. I'd like to just talk about a few of the things. I'm going to let Zendo and Maurice will tell you a little bit about what's going on in planning and in parks. I just got to say, just do a little bragging on them. Zendo has transformed the planning department and really made some great headways on doing that. Maurice will tell you that coming in, their budget for maintenance and repairs was, I think, about 400,000, 500,000, somewhere around there. They've increased that up to $1 million, and we've got some bond monies to help fix a lot of parks, do a lot of ADA work, which they're doing. One of the things that we wanted to focus on was sustainability and making sure that our keiki are able to raise their keiki here, and their keiki are able to stay on our island and raise their keiki. And we focused on what those things would be to make that happen. And the first and foremost of those are quality jobs and affordable housing. When we came in, we saw that there was a great housing shortage, and I think most of you out in Waimea and that area realize how difficult it is to get employees. I think every one of our hotels on the west side over there could take in anywhere between 50 and 100 employees tomorrow. It's very difficult. We have a lot of people who have been coming from Puna to work in those hotels, or Hilo or Waimea or North Kohala, and it's been very difficult. When we came in, the number of affordable housing projects in our pipeline, that means in the beginning of development all the way to actual work being done on the sites, was about 1,250. And as of the last couple of weeks, I think we're over 5,500 projects in our pipeline. Now that may seem like a lot, but there's studies out there that say that by 2025, we need to bring our affordable housing up by about 10 to 15,000 units. So that's quite a bit. And, you know, I know firsthand, my kids are now, all of them, living on the mainland because of, you know, the housing and quality jobs. And so we've really been focusing a lot on how do we do that? How do we improve things that we need, like our infrastructure? And so we've been looking at grants and different projects and working together as a group. I know that Heather sits on a couple of those committees that are looking at some of those. Tim's been working on different committees with us to make sure that we're able to have those quality jobs as well. One of the biggest issues that people talk about is the permitting system. And what's really interesting, we inherited a system called EPIC, which, you know, was purchased for a couple of $1 million several years ago, and we've been paying for it every year, and it hasn't been working. So we decided we're going to take responsibility, make sure that system is working. And I got to say, when we launched it, it was painful. We had a couple of guys that were assigned to it, and it really needed a team. And so Zendo kind of headed up that team with Ikaika Rodenhurst. Heather sat on that team. And actually, they still sit on this team because they're still working on fixes. And we started putting more resources to it. So a lot of people talk about, oh, the thing doesn't work. Well, let me just give you some real quick stats. In 2019, we averaged about 275 permits being issued a month. In 2020, that number went down to 269 issued per month. Our first year, even with the EPIC launch, which took a couple of months out of production, really, we still did 296 permits per month. So far this year, we're averaging about 544 permits issued per month. So that's doubling what was being done in the 2 years prior to us. Our plan reviewers that we have right now on this program is 3. That compares to 7 and 8 that they had in 2019, 2020. So we're actually issuing more permits now, double that number with less people. That being said, we still have a long ways to go, and we're really working on, you know, those on that permitting system to make sure it moves quickly. There are departments like Zendo's department, very efficient. Permits come in, they're able to read them, get them out pretty quickly. Sorry, Zendo, taking away a little bit of your thunder here. Fire department has a 10-day turnaround. We're still working with issues in the public works and building. They have the lion's share of the work, but they're putting in processes that are really making some positive changes. Not fast enough for me or other people, but they are happening. And, you know, my hat's off to those people. So if anybody wants to be a plan reviewer or knows someone who wants to be a plan reviewer, there's several positions open that, you know, we're looking for. I talked a little bit about being those hotels on the west side and a lot of the businesses on the west side, and people coming from Puna, Hilo, Waimea, Kohala. One of the things that we've just done recently, and it comes pretty good timing because of this, what I'm calling as an energy emergency, is that we've made our bus routes free. So it allows people to get around with the price of gas going up and other things. We're really glad that we put that in when we did, but even there, we're still working on lots of things to be a more sustainable Big Island. We're looking at our energy and how we can make sure that we are not only producing our own electricity 100%, but how we can provide renewable fuels, whether that be solar electric or hydrogen for our vehicles. We recently received our first hydrogen bus that is now on the island. It's getting wrapped, so we'll say the Helion bus, and that will be out on our roads. We have a hydrogen fueling station at Nelha, but we're looking at how we do that in other places, make sure that we have other fueling stations so we can get more of those hydrogen buses going out. I'll mention one last thing because I don't want to take too much time from Zendo and from Maurice in questions that you may have. Our R&D department has been working on this Build Back Better agriculture grant. And we made it in the final 60 so far. We received 500,000, but if we get this grant, we'll be getting $100 million or up to $100 million to work on agricultural projects on the Big Island. Now, when you hear that, please realize that all of that money does not just come to the county for the county to spend as they will. It's working with, the food bank, working with farmers and making sure that they're better able to go from farm to table and everything in between. So we have some really good feedback that we're getting. I don't want to jinx us, so I'll just leave it at that. But there's a lot of programs that we're working on. Big things happening in the next week. We will have our budget coming before the county council. Sorry, Tim, sorry, Heather, I won't be there next week because of the efforts that we've been doing with our sustainability. I was actually invited to the Ocean Summit talking about climate, keeping our oceans and our environment clean and pristine in Palau, and they've given me a speaking role. My first, it's a true story, my first inclination was to turn them down because we had our budget. And then Cyrus explained, this Ocean Summit in Palau doesn't have as many people as other ones, but they have people like John Kerry, the energy envoy, and a lot of other people that may be able to bring lots of money to Hawaii and give us a chance to showcase what we're doing here. And I realize it's probably more important that I attend this meeting and give our presentation and see what we can bring back to Hawaii Island than give our 5-minute presentation at the council. So you guys will have Lee Lord giving the presentation, our managing director. I heard one other thing that I wanted to just talk about. I know they talked about animal control, and I really want to thank Councilmember Tim Richards. We've done something I think a little bit different with this administration. You've heard with Heather, we brought her on some different working groups. Tim has been one of our best supporters and greatest minds on our animal control working group. And so we had a contract. The contract was not a great contract. We had people that people were not happy with, and we weren't happy with, and we know we can do it better. And so we put a group together. Councilmember Richards sits on that group, and again, we took responsibility, and it was painful at first, kind of like the EPIC system, pulling off a bandage. But if you don't start the work, then the work never gets done. And so that work is happening. We're looking at purchasing a shelter, which is gravely missing. We're looking at fixing up our shelters and really improving the system. And we've had a great team, and those things are moving forward. I'm going to turn it over to Zendo before answering questions, and then Maurice, and then we're very happy to answer questions. There's a lot of other information that I don't want to be repetitive on that you can see on the state of the county. But I'd like to introduce, for those of you who don't know, Zendo Kern, who has been one of many bright spots in our administration. Not only has he turned around, I think, the time and what people see at our planning department. I get very few complaints now about our planning department, but he's done that, and in a way that he has great support and love and admiration from his staff. And I think that's really important, because one of the big things that we're trying to do is change the culture of county government to make it one that treats people like they want their family members treated. And all the great things that the public say about Zendo, like sitting out at the counter when he has time, and changing that staff, changing the speed of which they operate. I think the greatest thing that he has is that ability to work with people and to get his staff behind him. So Zendo, I turn it over to you, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor. That was really nice. Made me feel all kind of rosy inside, buddy. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you to Waimea Community Association. A pleasure to be here for this, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I received some questions, so my dialogue is going to my update's going to flow through some of those questions on the updates, and then anything specific at the end, I can get into those specifically. So accomplishments, we came in, as Mayor said, there was all kinds of challenges. One of the challenges we had was, backlog of permits, Epic, the whole nine. So pleased to say that our permit backlog really doesn't exist anymore. I don't think we're ever perfect or going to be perfect, but overall, really happy, things are coming out quickly. Feel like good decisions are being made. I feel like Epic was a really big accomplishment that we were able to achieve. There's a lot of work that went in there from building it out. We're actually still working on it, so I'm going to touch base on it again later, because it's still part of my goals and priorities. It's an ongoing process, but overall, I've been really happy to get it stood up. We burnt the ships at the shore, as we talked about, and we pushed forward and we got it going. And I feel like that was really, really necessary. Waiting for it to be perfect wasn't going to happen. We needed to get it going and make moves as we were building it out. Only if you could see the backside of things. It's pretty crazy, but making it work. We're pretty much going paperless in the department. To me, that's a really huge accomplishment. I do all e-signatures generally, unless it requires the original. So that's flowing. We're not printing hardly anything. We're actually digitizing. We have a scan program going on right now. We've been scanning 30,000 documents a week. That's using the extra maneuvering our resources around to accomplish that. So really moving in that direction, which is also part of our overall sustainability. The Epic system also too allows us to really assign projects and move projects around digitally. So right now we've been understaffed since we came in. My Kona West Hawaii department is running around 60% staff. And normally, if it's paper-based, we have to truck things and move things back and forth, and there's a carbon footprint to that, where now I can assign dynamically. So if somebody didn't come in, I can reassign something. If we get a workload, I can really move things around, and it's really made management and resource utilization just phenomenal. So I've been really, really happy with that. Really focused on, I feel like we've done a good job at increasing our customer service and really focusing on treating people how we'd want to be treated, spending time in that, got really great team, really great staff, and really spend the time to just continue to layer in those values and uplift, and a lot more of, we're administrators. That's what we're here. We do some regulation, but we're here to administer. We're here to help. We got signs in the department now when you come in, and Komamai, welcome to the planning department. We really want people welcomed in there, because there's always this kind of nervousness to working with government, and we're trying to move away from that and more, hey, we're here to help and serve you. Timely processing, We actually cleaned out the Hilo planning department, like literally cleaned it out the first time I think ever. We did that over a course of 3 Fridays, the whole entire team, truckloads. I'm going in Sunday morning, loading my Tacoma to the max, dumpster after dumpster. It was insane that what we did, but it brought the team together too. It brought more unity and it really freshened it up. So that was just phenomenal. We're filling our CDP ACs. We got a couple other ones full, so that's been a good accomplishment. Ka'u and Puna. We just filled our planning commissions as of yesterday. Really happy about that. Really trying to also clarify, the ambiguous processes or ambiguous decisions. So we've been working on clarifying, creating more certainty and better direction around things. Planning department brought in $1.4 million in grant funds last year. That was not our normal, but we have some folks in there that focused on that. And that was a bit more shared with parks and DPW. We don't use those funds so much for us, but it was just really neat to see that. We've also have our online GIS portal. So if you're ever interested and want to, kind of geek out on land use stuff like I love to do, we have an online GIS portal at the planning department website. You can see zoning, LUPEG maps, even get access to documents. Go to the planning department website and go to resources and GIS portal and be right there. Also been really happy to have 2 Lead for Hawaii fellows working directly with me. Lead for Hawaii is a program that really has a fellowship program to uplift local leaders within our community and either bring them home or keep them home and give them opportunity. Talent there has been phenomenal. Been really pleased with that. So they've been helping with general plan and code and whatnot and other things. So it's really awesome. And accomplishment, I feel like this one is an accomplishment and always an improvement. Communication. I feel like we've improved our communication. We're working on improving communication, and it's something that continually work on improving. It's a constant goal, but I feel like we've moved in a really good direction there. Always looking for feedback. Positive feedback is great, but I like to hear the tough stuff. I like to hear, hey, did we mess up? Did we do something the wrong way? Did we miscommunicate? I would love to hear those types of things because that helps us adjust. Take it all very positive. Priorities and goals, continuing to build our service, continuing to build the team. When we came in, I kind of put together my own PPP program in the spirit of COVID, and it's people, policies, and process. Starts with the people. If we don't work with the people and get the people, it doesn't work. I try to explain that. Like, we're in land use, but we're also really in the people business. That's the common denominator. We all got to work together, live together, move forward together. Priorities: get our staffing's up. That's been a big challenge to get that up, but continue to work on that. Continue to digitize. Our goal is to basically digitize the entire department, all of the documents with a double backup, so everything is safe and secure. And then moving forward, everything will be digital. Prioritizing our complaints. Complaints come in. It's always a chase. We're working on getting those further up to date. That's an area that's still a little bit tricky. Epic 1.5 is what we're calling it, and 2.0. So right now we're working on building out our system. We're going through all of our workflows on the back end. We've worked to simplify the CSS side of it and give better information where we saw things where there were gaps. So it's easier for the customer when they go on there, they can see what's needed easier and just more directional on how that needs to flow. Epic 2.0 will have a bit more intelligence to it, so people can go on there and fill things out more in auto-populated placards and whatnot. So that's something that we're going to be moving into probably later on this year. Epic 1.5 hopefully will be done around like June-ish. And this Epic 1.5 is very planning department focused on our processes. We've gone through a CIP budget analysis and really tried to drill down on that and how to prioritize through the departments, through the general administration priorities, working with our first responders, and there's always a need there, and really trying to bring a bit more of a systematic, logical approach to that. And from there, the administration, the council can deliberate on where how are they going to float the bonds and whatnot. But it's really, I think we've gotten a lot better that way. We're also working hard on the federal grant work. It's very collaborative effort. So we work with R&D and various other departments on the grant because it's really going to take a team to be prepared and ready for all of these, which also links up to the CIP process. We're also working very closely with the Office of Housing and Community Development on affordable housing, and a lot of collaboration between the departments because a lot of these big efforts, it's no one department. It's the team that's going to really make it work. current projects, we are deep into the general plan update. Really reassembling, putting it back together, taking a fresh look at it so we can get it back out to community, back out to the stakeholders, get some feedback as we make that through. Pretty much the goal through this year will be to revamp it, get a really good solid draft, go back out to community next year, and then getting into council right after that. We're also going through, Mayor?
So Zendo, I know there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about, but I do want to give Mo some time. I know that we're like in the last 10 minutes, and if possible, give the community a chance to answer some questions. So if I can just have you.
Sure, I'll go like really, really fast. We got a code update, climate action plan update, STVR update, science-based shoreline setback, SMA rules, lava recovery, epic permits working great. Kind of gave you an update on the general plan. CDP Action Committee members, it is full. We have a lot of holdovers on that. Now that we've gotten the other ACs taken care of, we're going to start refilling some of the other ones, but they are full. Variety of projects from infrastructure priorities to Waimea Town Center to secondary access roads and all kinds of stuff. So it's working. Happy to answer questions at the end. Time always goes really fast, and there's a lot that we've been doing and a lot to do. It's never ending. So thank you very much for the opportunity to give the update.
And I just to let you guys know, I can think of about 10 more minutes of great things that Zendo is doing. That's amazing. I'd like to real quickly introduce you guys to Maurice Messina. I know you probably know Mo, runs our parks division. And, you know, one of the things that we didn't say is that we all make it around the island, to Kona, to Waimea. Maurice, I don't know how many different groups that he has of park caretakers, workers, but he is always out in Waimea and Kona and Ka'u and North Kohala. The guy really needs to morph himself, and it's one of the toughest jobs. He's another guy that his staff says some amazing things when I go out there. Is the first guy who's ever come out to our base yard and met with us. And the fact that he comes out regularly is something that his workers really love him for. There's a lot of issues that Parks is looking at. Biggest part of that is funding. I'm going to let Maurice talk about that stuff. But another guy that I'm just super proud to have on my team. I've got a lot of stars. But I'll take credit for bringing Maurice into the county. All right, well, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Mitch, and thanks, Zendo, too. I'm going to more or less just follow kind of the same agenda that Zendo followed. So as far as our accomplishments, you know, it's well known that, you know, that the Parks and Rec Department, you know, on this island, we were opening before the islands and spectators. We were trying to get spectators into all of our facilities as soon as possible. So like I said, we reopened a lot of our facilities, you know, that includes gyms, swimming pools, camping sites, drag strip, rodeo arena, the zoo. One of the things we're most proud of is pulling back our Meals on Wheels program and our elderly activities division. And what that did is that brought a bunch of our seniors back into our congregate meal sites. One of the things that we noticed was that during the pandemic, our senior citizens, they were stuck in their houses, they were by themselves, not doing very well. So it was very important for us to get them back out in the community. And that it's robust, it's awesome right now. Another accomplishment is in the Sunday paper on West Hawaii Today and Tribune Herald this Sunday, we're going to have our Hawaii cherry blossom insert. You know, unfortunately, we had to, you know, postpone yet again the Waimea Cherry Blossom Festival. But I believe next year, somebody can correct me, but this is a big anniversary year coming up next year. And so we're going to bring it back bigger and better than ever. And it's going to be awesome. Another big accomplishment of ours is starting July 1st of this year, we will no longer be using Roundup in any of our park facilities. That's island-wide. Not just playgrounds, not just one area or another, but that's in every one of our park facilities. A couple of exceptions is our golf course and our cemeteries. But anywhere where people play, especially kids, we are going to be herbicide free or glyphosate-free, I'll say it like that. Let's see, in your area, we also acquired the funding for the demolition of the old Mahukona Pavilion. That's a $400,000 project that's been sitting in CIP for about 3 or 4 years. We were able to accomplish that within the first 6 months. Right now, our planners are working on the demolition plans and permits and everything for that. We've completed some of our ADA accessibility projects. We completed a $10 million project at the zoo. The zoo is open now. If you haven't been there since the project has happened, it'll blow your mind. We also completed Hilo Bayfront, Mohale Park, and Na'alehu Park. Let's see, we're working with the planning department right now for the design of the plan of hardening Hisaoka Gym in Kohala. And when I say hardening, I mean making it an emergency evacuation shelter for a high wind event. Parks and Rec Department is in charge of all the evacuation facilities whenever the emergency arises. And so having that facility being hardened in Kohala, that's going to give that whole region a place to shelter in place if needed. We've completed a total listing of all of our park facilities, which hasn't been done before. Right now, we have about 300 facilities that we're running. Personnel-wise, on the books, we have about 542 personnel, and we're currently staffed at about, I would say, 88%, 89% of our staff. Some of our projects, and like Mitch, the mayor mentioned, when we came into office, we had $425,000 in our repair and maintenance budget to take care of those 300 facilities. First year, we were able to bring that up to $799,000, and we're presenting a budget to County Council this year where that is finally over $1 million. That's I think it's about 1.07 million. That was a 4-year goal that we've accomplished in 1 year and 4 months. So we're very proud of that. Real quick priorities and goals is to complete all of our ADA projects island-wide, establish a facilities maintenance plan and an asset inventory listing. In your area specifically, we've got to get our Honoka'a and Kohala pools up and running again. We're working with the finance director and Mitch to make sure this can happen. This is a community-driven process, and without the community, we would not be where we are now. So we're really counting on our friends of those two pools to help us out, and they're doing a great job. One of the biggest projects that we're working on that we're most proud of with administration is we're partnering with the DOE for a mentoring program. We're going to be doing that in Kohala and Puna. And what that's going to do is before these kids get out of school, we're going to bring them into parks, and we're going to mentor them in some of our areas like accounting. Maybe it's a student that's involved in sports and they want to get into kinesiology or something like that. We'll bring them in. We got recreation directors. We got park caretakers. We just want to bring them in and show them that, the county is a good place to work. And if we do it right, they can raise a family, they can buy a house, they can stay on island, and we have a lot to offer for them. And I'll just go for one more thing. Another big accomplishment is our summer fun. Last 2 years, we've been running at about 25% summer fun due to COVID, but this year we're going to have 23 sites open island-wide with over 1,500 participants. We're also hiring about another 100 people to help with our summer fun programs. And we're really concentrating on the youth of our island to hire them to bring them in. Everything from lifeguards to recreation directors and recreation technicians. We want to build up what we're seeing in our community and make sure we're bringing the biggest and the brightest into the county. And Parks and Rec, we're doing what we can to make that a part of it. So thank you guys for your time. I would have spoken longer, but Zendo took up all my time. So.
Thanks, Mo. One of the things these guys didn't mention that we're also working on is Waimea Trails. And, we realize that it's not quite where it should be. We want to put it so people aren't parking in people's neighborhoods, and expand that trail, widen the trail, and do it right. So Zendo has been working with Parker Ranch. Mo's been working with his team out there, and we're all working with the community to make that a better trail than it is currently. So I see that we're like 1 minute from 7. James, I'll let you play it the way you want to play it.
Thanks, Mayor Roth. Yeah, well, so we won't go too far over 7 here, but maybe we can ask you a couple questions. So I'd like to pass it over to Nancy and Mary Beth if we can throw a few questions towards the mayor and our 2 directors joining us here.
Sure, I'll lead off with hopefully a quick one for you, Mayor Roth. What is the status of the DMV and when will it be open to walk-in appointments? The follow-up to that is the kiosk here in Waimea at Foodland is very easy to use and accessible when the DMV is not open and available. Are there plans to expand those facilities and have them in Waikoloa, North Kahala, and Honoka'a? So when will DMV reopen without appointments, and can everybody have those great kiosks?
We would love to have everybody having those great kiosks. I know right now in the Kona DMV office, I think we have 9 vacant positions. So part of our problem is the same problems that we're having in our building department. The hotels are having, restaurants are having, everybody else. We're having a hard time hiring people. We're hoping to open up very soon. I think right now one of our biggest challenges is just hiring people.
Thank you, Mayor Roth. Nancy, did you want to jump in with a question there?
Sure, thank you. Mo, what about phase 2 of our district park here in Waimea? Is that on anybody's radar to keep that alive and moving forward? Last year when we had the fires here in town, it really brought it to the forefront that we do not have emergency shelter and evacuation areas in Waimea. The old community center, I don't think qualifies, and the district park gym is open air, and we need something here. And I know that's part of the phase 2 plan. Can you touch on that, please?
So Nancy, it's not going to be probably the answer that you want to hear, but we're doing everything we can right now because of years of deferred maintenance to try to keep our facilities that we have running. Unfortunately, we're about to have to demolish the Mahalo Adjourn in Heather's district because of all this deferred maintenance. However, I do agree with you about what you're saying. If you go out, look at the senior center right now in Waimea, we've got 3 projects, I believe, on our CIP listing that has to do with Waimea Senior Center. So having a new facility, I think with the phase 2, the first thing we should do in that phase 2, if we can get the funds, is to build that senior and community center that could also serve as an emergency evacuation center, a hardened center. I believe we should have one of those hardened centers in Waimea and Kohala and Honoka'a, because in that entire district, we don't have anything right now.
Ideally, we'd have a hardened shelter in every district.
Of course.
Yeah, we utilize a lot of the DOE facilities for that, but when school needs to get back in and kids need to get back into school, we need to have a facility for these guys to go, and a Parks and Rec or a county facility is the most determinable for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're hopeful. James, did we have any community questions that came in?
Off the live stream, nothing at the moment. So let's see. Mary Beth, did you want to grab another one there?
Yeah, I'm going to ask one for our planning director. Can you provide a brief short-term vacation rental update and what's next in that saga?
Sure. So the next in that saga of short-term vacation rentals is doing a code update to basically fill some of the holes, some of the loopholes, and get it hopefully complete, or at least in the 99 percentiles. We're now collecting TAT tax through vacation rentals. And so something we're going to go back and look at is annual reporting for those STVRs that have registrations. Currently, our STVR NUCs are the non-conforming use certificates, which there's about maybe 700 to 800 of those now on the island. It's almost split 50-50 east and west. And we have around 4,000 registrations. So we're gonna kind of look at that compliance for TAT to make sure that that's compliant. The other really big area is around the hosted rentals. As an STVR is defined, it's defined as a single family residence where the owner or operator does not live on site with 5 bedrooms or less. And so when that bill came out, the concept was to tackle hosted rentals afterwards. We've inherited that, so now we're going to go through and basically define that, get it all underneath the same umbrella, so it's clear across the board on what can be used as a vacation rental and what cannot be used as a vacation rental. So we have working with Councilmember Kimball on that and Councilmember Ashley Kirkowitz as well. So we're kind of collaborating on this effort. We have some drafts that we're working on, and hopefully we'll be getting that out pretty darn soon, within like the next month or two. And a lot more little details, but that's kind of the high level stuff that we're working on with those.
Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you, Director Kern. I'll pass it back to Nancy for one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, just one last question for council members or the mayor, and it may not be a popular idea, but I'm always curious about the 2% tax for open space. Do you folks ever think about using that money for housing?
I don't think we can use the money for housing. The way it's a charter rule that you can only use it for certain things. And so we are trying to spend that money. We have, I think we brought 3 properties this last year. We are looking at Mahu Kona as our big purchase in this next year. And we have a couple of other ones that we're working on. You know, it's interesting because people put together these recommendations for like 1% here, 2% here, 3% here. We have the emergency fund. I hear there's some other stuff. We got to be really careful about the way we do those things. So.
I understand that. I guess my thought was, is there a way to think down the road of changing that approach? I mean, are you going to buy open space forever and ever and ever, or are there perhaps at some point better ways to use that money for the people that are here? Tim?
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. That's a very good question. And as Mayor pointed out, that's a charter issue. The only way that would change is with a charter amendment.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges right now with the PONC funding, we have 2% goes to the PONC purchase and 0.25% goes to maintenance fee. However, the maintenance fund gets capped, whereas the purchase fund can keep growing. And it should be the other way around. We should cap the purchase, because as we purchase more properties, we're going to need to work hard on getting these things maintained. And that's something we as a council, we as a administration are working actually to get more of the funding in the maintenance funds out to where they need to go. But there is a problem there. So we're going to have to face that. And that would be the time to address it as you do the whole charter amendment. But that's not a quick fix. That's a charter amendment.
Understood. Just wanted to bring it up. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. And I think we'll kind of wrap things up here, but I wanted to ask the mayor one last thing about, you know, you're off to Palau for the climate summit there on the Oceans Day there. Are there any rumors? We've heard something about holding another climate summit here in Hawaii County. Is that something you're moving forward with, Mayor Roth?
Yes, it is. Our sustainability summit last year was very successful. We thought it was going to be 100 people in a hotel room. We had 2,300 people registered and over 30,000 people who have viewed that. That also caught the attention of those people doing COP26, and we did a world TEDx presentation. We were one of the 11 different places around the world and the only one from America that was part of that group. And so Cyrus Johnson, who's in the corner down there, is looking at putting together our next summit. We're looking at right now tentatively July 18th, probably 2 days. The focus is going to be on policy and legislation, and really making sure that we're working together with other people and the state moving forward. It's very interesting. We've caught a lot of people's attention with what we're doing here, and our goal is to be the classroom for the world on how to do it right. So I'll leave it there. But James and everyone here, we are very happy to come back whenever you like us to come back. I'm hoping that the next time we come back, we're actually in person. There's a lot of you haven't got a chance to see in a while, and I think we're getting close to that time. So really appreciate, on behalf of the team here from the county, we want to thank you very, very much for doing this and keeping the community, in tune with what's going on.
Thank you, Mayor Roth. I really appreciate those words. And yeah, we do look forward to connecting with everyone in person sometime soon. And we just need to button down the best location to do that. So we'll stay in touch with everyone about that. But I want to thank you, Mayor Roth, and of course, Director Kern and Director Messina for joining us here this evening and really, capturing that overview of what's going on at the county level and especially at our administrative level. So thank you so much for your leadership and for joining us here this evening. And of course, I want to thank Nancy and Mary Beth for joining us on the call and asking these hard-hitting questions to our county administrators and leaders. So thank you, Nancy and Mary Beth. And so as we close tonight, I just want to say the last couple words. First, mahalo nui to all of our presenters for joining us, for taking the time to update the community and really connect with our viewers, and for really helping to lead our communities. Thank you to all of our viewers joining us on the live stream. This is up recorded here, so you can keep watching it. We've had a good following here and a new experiment over on YouTube, so appreciate your support there. So please share it out and rewatch when you're able to. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I want to wish everyone good health, be well, aloha, good night.
Aloha.
Aloha,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.